The healers under fire. The medical station sanctuary floated silently in the void between star systems, its white hull gleaming against the darkness of space. Dr. Sarah Chen pressed her palm against the cool metal of the observation window, watching. A small transport ship dock with their station. Inside that ship were 12 wounded Kethran refugees, survivors of another border skirmish that had nothing to do with Earth or humanity. Sarah had been chief medical officer of Sanctuary for 3 years now. The station served as a neutral medical facility, treating anyone who needed help regardless of species, politics, or ability to pay. It was humanity's gift to the galaxy, a floating hospital that had saved thousands of lives from dozens of different worlds. The soft chime of her communicator interrupted her thoughts. Dr. Chen to Medical Bay 3, came the voice of Nurse Elena Rodriguez. We have incoming casualties from the transport. Sarah moved quickly through the corridors of Sanctuary. The station was designed like a giant wheel, spinning slowly to create artificial gravity. Medical bays occupied the outer rim, while living quarters and administrative areas filled the inner sections. Everything was clean, bright, and optimized for healing. In Medical Bay 3, the scene was controlled chaos. Dr. Marcus Webb was already working on a Kethran warrior whose blue-scaled skin was marked with plasma burns. The Kethrans were a proud species, standing nearly 8 feet tall with 4 arms and eyes that could see into the infrared spectrum. This one had taken heavy damage to his breathing apparatus. Status report, Sarah said, pulling on surgical gloves. 12 casualties total, Elena replied, her dark eyes focused as she prepared medical instruments. Most are stable, but we have 3 critical cases. This one has severe respiratory damage, and the 2 in Bay 4 have internal injuries we're still assessing. Sarah nodded and moved to assist Marcus. Working on alien physiology was always challenging, but human medical training had proven remarkably adaptable. There was something about human intuition and problem-solving that seemed to work across species lines. Other races had noticed this, which was why Sanctuary received referrals from across the galaxy. The surgery took 4 hours. When it was over, the Kethran warrior was stable and breathing normally. Sarah washed her hands and was about to check on the other patients when Commander Jake Morrison appeared in the medical bay doorway. Jake was head of station security, a former military man who had requested assignment to Sanctuary after losing his brother in a senseless war. Sarah, we need to talk, he said, his expression serious. They walked to Sarah's office, a small space filled with medical journals and personal photos from Earth. Jake closed the door behind them and activated the privacy screen. I've been monitoring communications traffic, he said without preamble. 3 more medical transports have gone missing in the past 2 weeks. All of them were carrying human medical staff. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Missing how? Complete loss of contact. No distress signals, no debris fields, nothing. Just gone. Jake pulled up a holographic display showing the region of space around Sanctuary. Here, here, and here, all within a 50 light-year radius of our position. Sarah studied the display. The missing transports formed a rough triangle around several inhabited systems. Could be pirates, she said, though she didn't believe it herself. Pirates take ships for profit, Jake replied. These transports were carrying medical supplies and personnel, not valuable cargo. And there's something else. He highlighted another section of the display. 6 human medical facilities have reported unusual reconnaissance flights. Unknown ships approaching, scanning, then leaving without making contact. The implications were troubling. Sarah had always believed that medical neutrality protected them. The Hippocratic Oath was respected across the galaxy, even by species that were otherwise hostile to humanity. What do you think it means? She asked. Before Jake could answer, the station's alarm system activated. Red lights flashed and the computer's voice filled the air. Alert! Unidentified vessels approaching. All personnel report to stations. Sarah. And Jake ran to the command center. Captain Lisa Park was already there, having just returned from a supply run to the nearest Federation outpost. Lisa was one of their best pilots, a woman who could navigate asteroid fields blindfolded and land a transport in a hurricane. Report, Jake demanded. The sensor operator, a young ensign named David Kim, looked up from his console. 6 ships, configuration unknown. They dropped out of hyperspace 3 minutes ago and are approaching on an intercept course. Sarah looked at the tactical display. The approaching ships were sleek and angular, with weapon systems that registered as highly advanced. Have we tried hailing them? Multiple times, David replied. No response. Jake activated the station's communication system. Unknown vessels. This is Commander Jake Morrison of the Medical Station Sanctuary. You are approaching a neutral medical facility. Please state your intentions. Silence. The ships continued their approach. Sarah could see them now through the observation windows, dark shapes against the stars. There was something predatory about their movement, like sharks circling wounded prey. Incoming transmission, David announced suddenly. The main screen activated, showing the interior of one of the alien ships. The creature that appeared was unlike anything Sarah had seen before. It was humanoid, but taller and thinner than most species, with pale gray skin and large black eyes that seemed to absorb light. When it spoke, its voice was cold and mechanical. Human medical station, it said. You will surrender all medical personnel for processing. Resistance will result in destruction. Jake stepped forward. This is a neutral medical facility protected under Galactic Treaty 7. We demand to know who you are and by what authority you make this demand. The alien's expression didn't change. We are Zephyrian Empire. Your medical interference ends now. The transmission cut off. Sarah felt her blood turn to ice. The Zephyrian Empire controlled a significant portion of the galaxy's outer rim. They were known for their militaristic society and their belief that weakness should be eliminated, not healed. But they had never directly confronted human medical operations before. All stations, battle alert, Jake announced. This is not a drill. Sanctuary wasn't a warship, but it had defensive capabilities. Shield generators powered up and the station's few weapon systems came online. They were designed for defense against pirates and debris, not military vessels. Dr. Marcus Webb appeared at Sarah's side. What's happening? My patients are asking questions. Evacuate all non-critical patients to the inner ring, Sarah ordered. Prepare emergency medical stations in the secured areas. The attack began without warning. Plasma bolts lanced through space, striking Sanctuary's shields. The station shook and lights flickered throughout the facility. Shields at 70%, David reported. They're targeting our medical bays specifically. Sarah watched in horror as the tactical display showed the enemy weapons focusing on the areas where patients were being treated. This wasn't a military strike. It was targeted assassination. Return fire, Jake ordered. Sanctuary's defensive weapons were no match for the Zephyrian ships. The station was designed to heal, not fight. Each hit from the alien weapons drained their shields further. Elena's voice crackled over the communicator. Medical Bay 2 has been hit. We're losing atmosphere. Sarah ran toward the medical section, but Jake grabbed her arm. It's too dangerous. Those are my patients, she said, pulling free. The corridor to Medical Bay 2 was filled with smoke and debris. Sarah found Elena and 2 other nurses trying to evacuate wounded patients while emergency systems sealed the hull breach. The sight that greeted her was devastating. Medical equipment destroyed, and 3 patients who had been recovering from surgery were now critically injured again. Get them to Bay 5, Sarah ordered, helping to carry a wounded Aqualian whose gill slits were bleeding. Another explosion rocked the station. Through the damaged wall, Sarah could see one of the Zephyrian ships positioning itself for another attack. She realized with growing horror that they weren't trying to capture the station. They were trying to destroy it completely. Back in the command center, Jake was coordinating the evacuation. All medical personnel to escape pods. We can't hold them off much longer. Captain Lisa Park was prepping her transport ship. I can take 20 people, but we'll need multiple trips. No time, Jake said grimly. Shields are failing. Sarah made a decision that would haunt her forever. Evacuate all patients first. Medical staff will take the second wave. Sarah, that's suicide, Marcus protested. "It's what we're here for," she replied simply. The next hour was chaos. Medical staff worked frantically to move patients to escape pods and Lisa's transport while the station took continuous fire. Sarah watched through the observation windows as pods launched into space, carrying the people they had sworn to protect. Elena was helping the last of the critical patients when a plasma bolt punched through the medical bay's outer wall. The explosion threw her across the room and she hit the far wall with a sickening crunch. Sarah ran to her friend's side. Elena was unconscious, her left arm clearly broken and her breathing shallow. "Get her to the transport," Sarah ordered, the remaining staff. "What about you?" Marcus asked. Sarah looked around the destroyed medical bay. Months of work, thousands of lives saved, and now it was all being torn apart by creatures who saw healing as weakness. "I need to make sure everyone gets out." The final escape came just as Sanctuary's shields failed completely. Sarah found herself on Lisa's transport with Marcus, Elena, and 8 other staff members, all that remained of a crew of 40. Through the transport's rear windows, she watched as the Zephyrian ship systematically destroyed the medical station with precise, calculated strikes. "They're not pursuing," Lisa reported from the pilot seat. "They're just making sure nothing survives." Sarah held Elena's hand as the unconscious nurse was connected to life support systems. Around her, the other survivors sat in stunned silence. They had dedicated their lives to healing, to helping others regardless of politics or species. And now they had been targeted specifically because of that dedication. "Why?" Marcus whispered, voicing the question they were all thinking. Why would they do this? Sarah didn't have an answer. But as she watched Sanctuary's final moments, the medical station breaking apart in a series of explosions, she felt something new growing inside her. It wasn't hatred exactly, but it was harder and colder than anything she had felt before. The Zephyrians had made a terrible mistake. They had attacked humanity's healers, thinking it would weaken them. They had no idea what they had just unleashed. As Lisa's transport jumped to hyperspace carrying the survivors toward the nearest Federation outpost, Sarah made a silent promise. The galaxy would know what had happened here. Earth would know that its medical personnel were being hunted and killed simply for doing their job. And somehow, some way, there would be consequences. The Zephyrian Empire was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their ability to heal. It was their willingness to protect those who did the healing. The war for the soul of galactic medicine had just begun. Earth's brutal response. The emergency session of the Earth Defense Council convened within hours of receiving the transmission from Sanctuary's survivors. Admiral David Cross stood at the head of the polished table, his weathered face grim as he reviewed the reports streaming in from across human space. The attack on Sanctuary wasn't an isolated incident. It was part of a coordinated campaign. 7 medical facilities destroyed in the past month, Admiral Cross announced to the assembled officials. 43 transport ships missing. Over 600 medical personnel confirmed dead. His voice was steady, but those who knew him could hear the fury underneath. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not dealing with random attacks. This is systematic extermination. Dr. Rachel Kim, the Defense Forces chief medical researcher, activated a holographic display showing the galaxy's medical network. Red markers indicated destroyed or missing human medical assets. The pattern was unmistakable. The Zephyrian Empire has been studying our medical operations for months, she explained. They've identified our most effective facilities and personnel, then eliminated them with surgical precision. Ambassador Nina Foster, Earth's chief diplomat, leaned forward. The Galactic Council is demanding restraint. They claim that military retaliation will only escalate the situation. Admiral Cross turned to face her directly. Ambassador, with all due respect, how do you restrain against genocide? Because that's what this is. They're not targeting our military, they're murdering doctors and nurses. Colonel Tom Bradley, head of Earth's Special Operations Command, had been silent until now. He was a man who spoke only when he had something important to say. Sir, we've completed our analysis of the Zephyrian attack patterns. They're using a specific tactical doctrine designed to eliminate what they call genetic corruption vectors. The room fell silent. Dr. Kim pulled up a new display showing intercepted Zephyrian communications. They believe human medical intervention weakens other species, she continued. In their society, the weak are meant to die. By healing members of other species, they think we're corrupting the natural order and making the galaxy soft. Admiral Cross studied the data with the calculating gaze of a man who had spent 40 years in military service. So they see our medics as the greatest threat to their philosophy. Exactly, Dr. Kim confirmed. They've prioritized destroying human medical capabilities over our military forces because they believe our healers are more dangerous than our weapons. Captain Rex Hunter, leader of the Defense Force's elite tactical strike teams, spoke up from his position near the back of the room. Admiral, my teams have been analyzing Zephyrian ship movements. They're planning something big. Fleet concentrations near the Kepler Medical Research Station suggest they're preparing for a major assault. Admiral Cross walked to the large window overlooking Earth's orbital shipyards. Construction had been ongoing around the clock since the first reports of attacks. New ship designs were taking shape, vessels that humanity had never built before. The Zephyrians made a fundamental error in judgment, he said without turning around. They assumed that by targeting our medics, they would weaken our resolve. They don't understand humans at all. He turned back to face the room. Dr. Kim, status report on Project Caduceus. Dr. Kim stood and activated a new holographic display. It showed a ship design unlike anything in human space. Sleek and white like a medical vessel, but bristling with advanced weapons and defensive systems. The first Hippocratic-class medical battleship will be ready for deployment in 72 hours, she announced. It combines our most advanced medical facilities with military-grade shields and weapons. The medical bay can treat 200 patients simultaneously while the weapon systems can engage multiple targets. Ambassador Foster looked uncomfortable. Admiral, arming medical vessels violates several galactic treaties. The Zephyrians violated those treaties when they started. Murdering medics, Admiral Cross replied coldly. We're not abandoning our medical mission, we're protecting it. Colonel Bradley activated his own display, showing troop movements and ship deployments. The Zephyrians have made one critical mistake. They've been so focused on our medical personnel that they've ignored our actual military capabilities. They think we're weak because we heal instead of kill. Captain Hunter smiled grimly. They're about to learn the difference between choosing not to fight and being unable to fight. The plan that emerged from the emergency session was unlike anything humanity had attempted before. Instead of purely military retaliation, Earth would demonstrate that human medical science could be more devastating to the Zephyrian Empire than any weapon. Dr. Kim explained the central concept. We've discovered that Zephyrian physiology has a critical weakness. Their immune systems are hyper-aggressive, designed to fight off any foreign influence. But we can turn that against them. She showed microscopic images of Zephyrian blood samples. We've developed a medical compound that triggers their immune system to attack their own neural tissue. It's delivered through their water supply or air systems. Within hours, their command structure collapses as their leaders become incapacitated. Admiral Cross studied the data carefully. This could disable entire fleets without killing anyone. Exactly. We show them that our medical knowledge can be used defensively while maintaining our ethical standards. The first strike came 3 days later. Captain Hunter's team infiltrated a Zephyrian staging area near the border of human space. Instead of explosives or traditional weapons, they carried Dr. Kim's medical compounds. Colonel Bradley monitored the operation from the command center. Hunter Team Alpha is in position at the water treatment facility. Beginning deployment, came Hunter's voice over the communication system. Within 6 hours, the entire Zephyrian base was in chaos. Their command staff was incapacitated, their ships unable to coordinate effectively. But they were alive, receiving medical treatment from the same humans they had been trying to exterminate. Admiral Cross watched the results with satisfaction. Phase 2 is a go. The newly launched Hippocratic-class battleship, designated Hope's Defender, arrived at the Kepler Medical Research Station just as the Zephyrian fleet began their assault. Dr. Sarah Chen, who had survived the destruction of Sanctuary, stood on the bridge next to the ship's captain. Zephyrian fleet. This is the Earth vessel Hope's Defender, she announced over the communication system. You are attacking a medical facility protected under galactic law. Withdraw, immediately. The Zephyrian commander's response was predictable. Human healers will be eliminated. Your corruption ends today. What happened next would be talked about in military academies for generations. The Hope's Defender didn't respond with overwhelming firepower. Instead, it deployed a new type of weapon, medical nanobots delivered through modified torpedoes. The nanobots were programmed with one purpose: to find injured Zephyrian personnel and provide immediate medical treatment. As the battle raged, wounded Zephyrian soldiers found their injuries healing rapidly, their pain disappearing, their strength returning. But the nanobots carried a secondary program. They transmitted the medical data of every Zephyrian they treated back to Earth, building a comprehensive database of their physiology, weaknesses, and genetic structures. Dr. Kim monitored the data stream from Earth. We're getting real-time physiological data on the entire Zephyrian fleet, their medical weaknesses, their genetic markers, everything. Admiral Cross nodded grimly. Continue the operation. The battle lasted 12 hours. The Zephyrian fleet, expecting easy victory against what they thought was a defenseless medical station, found themselves facing an enemy that healed their wounds, while simultaneously learning everything about their biology. By the end of the engagement, the Zephyrian fleet was retreating, but every ship carried nanobots that would continue gathering intelligence and providing unwanted medical care to their crews. The final phase of Earth's response came 2 weeks later. Ambassador Foster stood before the Galactic Council, presenting humanity's ultimatum to the Zephyrian Empire. Earth's position is simple, she announced. Attacks on human medical personnel will cease immediately. Any further aggression will result in the complete medical incapacitation of Zephyrian leadership. The Zephyrian representative, a tall figure in ceremonial armor, stood to respond. Humans are weak. Your healing makes the galaxy soft. We will not submit to genetic corruption. Ambassador Foster smiled coldly and activated a holographic display. It showed detailed medical scans of every major Zephyrian leader, including the representative standing before the council. We now possess complete medical profiles of your entire command structure, she said calmly. We know every weakness, every genetic flaw, every potential health issue. We can trigger neural collapse in your leadership within hours, or we can provide medical treatments that will extend their lives by decades. The Zephyrian representative's confidence visibly wavered. But here's what makes humans different, Ambassador Foster continued. We choose to heal rather than harm. Your people are receiving medical treatment right now from the nanobots we deployed. They're living longer, healthier lives because of human medical science. She paused, letting the implications sink in. The question is, do you want us to continue healing your people, or would you prefer we stop? The council chamber was silent as the Zephyrian representative processed this information. His people, the ones on the ships that had attacked human medical facilities, were being kept healthy by human medical technology. To attack humanity's medics would mean condemning his own people to suffer and die from conditions that human medicine could easily treat. Dr. Sarah Chen, who had been invited to address the council as a survivor of the attacks, stood to speak. The Zephyrian Empire believes that healing makes us weak, she said, her voice carrying across the chamber. They targeted our medical personnel because they thought we would be easy victims. They were wrong. She gestured to the display showing the Zephyrian fleet data. We didn't defeat them with superior weapons. We defeated them with superior understanding. Our medical knowledge allowed us to learn everything about them while healing their wounded. We turned their own aggression into a source of intelligence. She paused, looking directly at the Zephyrian representative. You wanted to eliminate human medical influence from the galaxy. Instead, you've made it clear that we need to expand. Every species should have access to the medical knowledge that saved your people's lives. Admiral Cross joined the transmission from Earth. The Zephyrian Empire has a choice. They can continue their aggression and face the consequences of opposing a species that has learned to turn healing into the ultimate weapon. Or they can accept that humanity's medical mission will continue, protected by forces they cannot defeat. The Zephyrian representative looked around the council chamber, seeing the faces of delegates from dozens of species. Many of them had received human medical treatment at some point. Their people lived longer, healthier lives because of human medical science. "What do you want?" he asked finally. "Reparations for the families of murdered medical personnel." Admiral Cross replied immediately. "Formal recognition of medical neutrality under galactic law, and acceptance of human medical facilities throughout Zephyrian space." The representative's shoulders sagged in defeat. "The Empire will consider your terms." "You have 72 hours, Admiral Cross said. "After that, we stop providing medical treatment to Zephyrian personnel. We estimate your fleet commanders have about 96 hours before the neurological conditions we've been treating become permanent." As the transmission ended, Dr. Sarah Chen felt a sense of closure she hadn't expected. The colleagues who had died at Sanctuary had been avenged, but not through violence. They had been avenged through the very thing they had dedicated their lives to, the power of healing. Humanity had learned a valuable lesson in the conflict with the Zephyrian Empire. Their greatest strength wasn't their ability to destroy, but their capacity to heal, to understand, and to turn that understanding into an unassailable advantage. The galaxy would never again see human medical personnel as easy targets. They had learned that attacking humanity's healers didn't make humans weaker. It made them infinitely more dangerous. The age of protected medicine had begun, and humanity would be its guardians.